Hello everyone, it is Sunday the 29th of January. Welcome back to the D3D4 football podcast dedicated to all things Leagues 1 and 2. The weekend schedule has been dominated by the FA Cup fourth round. Right now as we speak, there is a game between Wrexham of the National League and Sheffield United of the Championship. I've got it on in the corner of my eye. Sheffield United went ahead after about 62 seconds. It was incredibly quick and there hasn't been a goal since, although I think Wrexham lost one of their centre-backs to injury as well. So they might have their work cut out against what should be a very strong opponent up at the top of the Championship. We're here to focus, however, on the third and fourth tiers, and there are three people on this call to do so. It is myself, Edward Walker, joined by David Jenkin and Harry Thomas. David, how's your week been, mate?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. It's been a while since we've last done one of these, actually, or it feels like that. It's been a good week. Picking up in the world of football, picking up in the world of work. Can't really complain, pal. Can't really complain.
Yeah, unfortunately we missed last week due to availability, so we missed out on some games there, but your boys are really starting to pick up all of a sudden.
Oh, I'm enjoying football again, my friends. I'm enjoying it.
We all enjoyed this weekend. It's quite nice to be on a pod where we're all quite happy. Harry, I imagine you feel the same at the minute.
Yeah, well, I can't believe it's taken quite this long, but spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about my first Tranmere win.
I'm not buying it's your first win. I'm not having that.
We've had two wins since when I started and this weekend, and both of those were in the Christmas period when we took some.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, good to have a vibrant mood around. I do need to start this episode, however, with a rant, and I do apologise for doing this, but I think it is really worth bringing up. I was very disappointed with the EFL highlight show that was on ITV last night. The programme was about an hour and a half in length. You had 20 games in total to run through, 3 in the Championship, 17 combined in Leagues 1 and 2. The League 1 section didn't start until the programme was pretty much halfway through. Dedicating half of your show to less than a fifth of the games that you have the rights to show highlights of, it just isn't right at all. Yesterday was a really good opportunity, I think, for ITV to put some deeper focus onto Leagues 1 and 2, and they didn't do it. You kick things off with a highlights package of Middlesbrough v Watford, and it then takes more than half an hour for any other game highlights to be shown. You're just trying to fill the time up with interviews that aren't what people watch these kind of highlight shows for. People tune into these programmes to see the highlights of their team in action and get a general overview of the league that their team's in. And for a lot of that show last night, you as a viewer were just left twiddling your thumbs and wondering when your team's game will be shown. It didn't help that yesterday's programme was a delayed start. It began around sort of 10:20 p.m. because ITV had an FA Cup game broadcasted prior to it. On another subject, Manchester United v Reading, incredibly boring TV pick. There's nothing magic at the cup about that. We all knew how that game would end up before a ball was even kicked. There were no surprises there at all. Naturally, with there only being 3 Championship games, you're logical in thinking that League One's highlights are going to start relatively early into the episode, so you tune in earlier, but anyone who does tune in early is left having to wait until the halfway mark before the leagues begin. Cramming more than 4/5 of the day's games into about 45 minutes, that's not right. That's a bias problem. And it's not just ITV of this bias problem, by the way. It's talked about a lot. Organisations spend a lot of money to acquire the rights to broadcast EFL matches and provide the highlight show of EFL matches, and they quite clearly only really care about one of the 3 divisions. You see it all the time. There is this massive imbalance between the Championship's coverage and that of League 1 and League 2. That yesterday from ITV was one of the worst examples I've seen of it. Could you really provide any better proof than that, which shows that you're only including League 1 and League 2 highlights packages because you're contractually obliged to? It's a problem that needs addressing and sorting out, and in truth it has for a long time. Sorry to start with that rant, but I think it needs to be said. I'm really tired of the imbalance here. It needs to be sorted out, but we'll move ahead. A reminder before we get going, this podcast is in partnership with The Big Step, which tackles football's relationship with gambling. There is an excessive presence of gambling adverts within football, and The Big Step continues to do great work to raise awareness about the dangers of gambling and the impact it can have on so many people's lives. Big thank you as well to all our Patron members. Those who sign up for as little as just £1 per month can get access to exclusive D3D4 daily podcast episodes throughout the week, produced by my co-host James Richards, which focus in depth on individual clubs and provide previews to some of the most eye-catching fixtures in League 1 and League 2 each weekend. You can sign up now at patreon.com/D3D4football. I'm going to leave the rant there. Let's get going. Let's focus on the football. And we'll begin, as always, with the world's best third tier.
League 1.
League One, David, there's only one place to start. We have to begin with the biggest win of the weekend, and what a result this was. Morecambe 5, Bristol Rovers 1.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic result here for the Shrimps. But before I get on to that, Ed, I just want to share my best wishes with all at Bristol Rovers for their support of Nick Anderton in his battle with cancer. The whole squad and management team shaving their heads as a sign of unity, and absolute kudos to that. It's really great to see a football club gathering about something that's not just on the pitch and really showing that unity with a fellow player. But on to the football. Yeah, I mean, despite being bottom four for this game, Morecambe hadn't lost a home game in the last four consecutive home wins now for them. And that definitely put them in a really good shape for this one. I mean, more impressively, Ed's not going to like this whatsoever, but twice this month, this is the second time this month.
This makes me feel better. I've got to say, it makes me feel a bit better.
Well, fair enough.
It's not just us.
Fair enough. Yeah, second time in which they put 5 past the team, and of course that was your side, Ed, in Burton Albion. But yeah, I mean, Ellery Balcom made his debut in this game, and it was certainly a debut to forget, the lad who had spent the first half of his season on loan at Crawley. On the other hand, very much a debut to remember for the incoming Daniel Crowley. He opened the scoring from range, testing quite an unlucky Balcom in this situation. The ball's just bounced before him, kind of rising up, can't get enough on it, and he scored his first goal in English football for 2 years in the process, having joined them from, I believe it was Willem 2 in the Holland divisions. The Shrimps doubled their lead following quite a soft own goal from Connolly, although I'm not really sure there was much he could have done to avoid it in that situation. Certainly a game for Morecambe players breaking scoring streaks here, though, with Donald scoring his first goal in over 100 appearances from a very tight angle across to the far corner. It wasn't a game without its chances for Bristol Rovers, but it just seemed like it wasn't going to be their day. Just after coming on, Harry Anderson missed a gilt-edged heading chance. He just couldn't connect with it. And to make matters worse, moments later, the new man, Crowley, found himself in again, and he put Cole Stockton in, which is really good to see him back scoring. I mean, that's only his third goal this season, which is a complete stark contrast to last year. Rovers, again, weren't without their chances, had another chance to get back into the game from the spot. But if there's two certainties in life, Ed, it's death, taxes, and Connor Ripley at the moment saving a penalty, isn't it? So far this season, that's 6 he's faced, and he saved 5 of them, only conceding 1, which was against Ipswich. Absolute machine when it comes to it.
Absolute freak.
Absolute, yeah, completely. Freak of nature when it comes to the spot at the moment. Morecambe's 5th would come from 17-year-old Danny Mayer after he'd beaten 2 defenders and slotted it into Balcom's far post. Rovers got a consolation goal. Who else is it going to be other than the one and only Aaron Collins? But it looks to be a very exciting time at the Mazuma, especially over the last couple of games for them. And of course, that puts them outside of the bottom 4 now.
Wow. Stunned by Morecambe, honestly. 5 goals, Dan Crowley, own goal, Donald Love, Cole Stockton, Adam Mayer at the end as well. Have we seen one of the finest debuts from an EFL player ever? Because they are purring about Danny Crowley after that.
I mean, I've only seen him through those highlights, but from what I had seen,
I've just called him Crawley, haven't I? I meant to say Crowley there. I'm really struggling with names. Crowley, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he had a phenomenal performance in this game. I mean, the ball through to Stockton was something of sheer beauty. To kind of, especially, to take on a shot from the range he took it on is one thing, but to do it as your first shot in your sort of debut game, and to kind of, probably more for a mistake from Balcom than anything else, but to be able to kind of get that first goal on the sheet, I'm sure that gives him a lot of confidence. It's clear he's going to be very instrumental for Morecambe and a really good addition for them. It's
incredible, really. I mean, I did notice the signing and thought, that's quite interesting. And now you realise that you've added a guy who's shown in his first game the amount of quality he has, and you add him to a midfield that's already got goal scorers in Jensen Weir and Liam Shaw. They look terrifying all of a sudden, David.
I mean, I think Morecambe have been... They're not one of the teams that I would have pictured to be at the bottom of the table, like around there, but I think I don't want to speak too soon, but I think signings like this, if they maybe get one or two more in this window, I think they can probably count themselves relatively safe.
I'd like to think so, yeah. You go back to midweek and they played Ipswich at Portman Road, beaten 4-0, conceded 4 goals in the first half. And you kind of felt, yeah, not great, but it's not going to define them. We looked at the fixtures they had prior against lower end sides, which they got wins against here. Bristol Rovers felt like relatively easier opposition as well. They're capitalising on the games that matter to them. And they're on a phenomenal run of form, out the bottom 4, having previously, I think around Boxing Day, looked to drift to the rest as well, going from strength to strength. And Derek, I think I've said it before, he's at it again. What a brilliant game, and what a brilliant debut from Dan Crowley, not Dan Crawley. Don't know why I said Crawley. We'll move on. Harry, talk to us about Shrewsbury Town 2, Forest Green Rovers 1.
Welcome to League One, Duncan Ferguson.
Mm-hmm.
It was late heartbreak for the new Forest Green Rovers manager, who had one of the most incredible new manager signing interviews I've ever seen. Whether it was him trying not to notice the scarf that Dale Vince was wearing, whether it was him being awkwardly handed a vegan burger mid-conversation. It was brilliant to watch, and I'm sure that he will do well as a manager, but he's learnt some important lessons there yesterday, and it's a match that's extended Forest Green's winless run to 8 games now. Steve Cotterill opted for a 3-4-1-2 for his Shrewsbury side, whereas Ferguson went for a 4-3-3, bringing Everton loanee Tyler Onyango straight into the starting lineup. So I'm playing on the right alongside Amadou Bakayoko down the middle and Jordan Garrick on the left. The Shrews probably started the game as the better side, and Ross Doohan did well to stop Rod Street from putting them ahead. But shortly after that chance, it was Forest Green who took the lead, thanks to a fantastic curling effort from outside of the box by Jordan Garrick. He didn't score a goal whilst he was on loan at Lincoln in the first half of the season, but he's already got 2 now for Forest Green, so he's looking like quite a shrewd signing, to be honest. They had chances to extend their lead. Oliver Casey hitting it straight at Marco Morosi in the first half with some classic centre-back finishing, shall we say, and Garrett curling an effort wide in the second half, and those chances really came back to haunt them in the 6 minutes that were added on at the end of the game. In the 94th minute, a poor corner was headed out only as far as the edge of the box by Ben Stevenson, and Raquel Pike was able to control the ball before finishing through a crowd of bodies and into the bottom corner. In the 99th minute, they then went behind. Carl McAllister was outmuscled in midfield by Killian Phillips, who played fellow substitute Ryan Bowman through to score the winner for the Shrews. It was an impressive 4th consecutive victory for them. That's the first time that's happened since 2017. And it takes them up to 9th in the league. In my head, they were still sort of just about staying adrift of the relegation zone, but they're doing well at the minute. And they're just 3 points off Barnsley's 6th spot. So keep an eye on them, because they could just about sneak their way into the playoff contention. They do seem to be coming out the other end of their injury crisis a bit. I'm hoping they'll be able to keep players fit now. They brought Elliot Bennett back in off the bench. They've got Tom Flanagan back. And they've been able to rest the likes of Tom Bayliss as well. So they're able to get the best out of him there. As is always the case when a new manager comes in, I think it's hard to say at the minute what Forest Green will do from here. I mean, Duncan Ferguson's been an interim before, but he's never been a first-team manager on a permanent basis. So I don't really know what to expect from him. And they have got a lot of new players to bed in. My only concern with that is the ones that they brought in, the likes of Onyango, Charlie Savage. They're young players and they're no doubt talented, but it's whether or not they can sort of help out a club that are in a relegation battle.
David, what's your feeling on Duncan Ferguson? Because I'd love to know how his and Dale Vince's paths crossed. I was not expecting to see that appointment at all when Ian Birchnell was let go.
I mean, to tell you the truth, it was a very confusing appointment to me. I felt that with Everton sacking Frank Lampard, that was probably his likely destination, that he was going to find himself in the Premier League instead. I think, if I'm honest, I think it's somewhat of a coup for Forest Green. Again, I agree with your sentiments. I'm a bit confused as to how they've managed to secure him. And how, for me, I would have thought it would have been, as I said, an Everton appointment. I think it's a strange one. Clearly, he'll have lots of connections. They've brought in, I can't remember the player off the top of my head, but I know they've brought in an Everton loanee.
Tyler Onyango's in. Yeah.
Right, there you go. So Onyango. Then obviously, as Harry just mentioned, they've brought in Charlie Savage from Manchester United as well. So he's using those connections. But I feel I think I agree with Harry's sentiments. I don't think he's proven, and it's tough to kind of find yourself in a relegation battle especially with bringing in players that, yes, again, have quality. But I think when you're in that sort of position, you need a certain determination, a certain grit. And I'm not quite sure you get that from low-key Prem players.
I think the question to me about whether Forest Green get out of this doesn't lie so much with players. I think it lies with Big Dunk. I don't know what kind of tactician he is. I don't think we really saw it. His interim spells with Everton was so brief. It was more about just that, the passion he provided, being able to just lift the group, and maybe you can do that to the point with Forest Green. But I look at this and think you're not only bringing this guy in surely to try and survive, it's with the intention of taking him into the following season, whether that's in the third tier or the fourth tier as well. And I don't know, because we haven't really got any previous evidence, what kind of tactician he is, what impact he's going to have on all these players he has at his disposal. So we'll have to see. I mean, he'll certainly be popular with the Everton crowd. I think there's a lot of Toffees who might have adopted Forest Green as the secondary team after the news of his appointment. They'll have had that familiar, painful feeling watching yesterday's result. It wouldn't have been ideal for them at all. 4 wins in a row to Shrewsbury, though. They've had a favourable run of fixtures recently. We asked them if they could get 4 wins in a row, and they duly done that. They smashed Burton Albion, they smashed Cambridge United, left it late against Milton Keynes Dons, and left it very late against Forest Green Rovers to secure a 4th victory in a row. Some great scenes up in Shropshire. Burton Albion 2, Oxford United 0 is the reason for my happiness today. This was a fixture I have dreaded for the last 2 seasons. Oxford have always been able to have Burton Albion's number, so yesterday was a pretty welcome surprise actually. First goals of 2023 for the Brewers, their first points of 2023, a first home win over the U's since the pair were actually both back in League 2 as well. It was a new look Burton team yesterday. 4 debutants in there. Craig McGillivray, the goalkeeper. Barnsley, Loney, Jasper Moon playing on the left side of a back 3. West Bromwich Albion, Loney Zach Ashworth playing at left wing back. And Nottingham Forest, Loney Dale Taylor up top. They all contributed towards what was a very encouraging afternoon for Dino Mamry's side. Boosted even more before kick-off by seeing the news of Sam Hughes back in the team and playing again much quicker than I was expected, and he's such an integral defender to them and showed it once again yesterday. McGillivray was called upon, for instance, to make an early save in the game. One thing I love about McGillivray is a bit like what you see with Jordan Pickford in the Premier League. Whenever he has to make a save, he goes absolutely mad at the defence in front of him for making him have to do it. I love that about him. He's so keen to not have to do his job, essentially, to keep that defence organised in front of him. Burton's opener came late into the first half. Ball fell to Zach Ashworth from outside the box. A lovely strike from him. Ended up going off the post and off Simon Eastwood, the Oxford goalkeeper. So it has gone down as an own goal, sadly, and not a goal for Ashworth. Bit of a shame for him. Dale Taylor would double the lead to the Brewers early into the second half as well. A great debut from him. And it's needed in truth. The mood is quite low around Burton on Friday after the news that their top scorer, Victor Adebayo, was sold to Bolton Wanderers. The release clause, whatever fee that actually was activated by Bolton, and he is now moved over to the Trotters as well to play for them, and we'll get on to Bolton a bit later on as well. Dale Taylor, who's coming on loan from Forest, is the prime candidate to fill that striker role at the moment. He could end up becoming crucial should Burton Albion not be able to bring in another forward in the final days of this window. We'll find out for sure. The window closes on Tuesday night. When Oxford lose, they're losing to 0 at the moment. They've suffered defeats to Ipswich Town, Exeter City, Wycombe Wanderers and Burton Albion all since Boxing Day. There's questions coming the way of the manager Carl Robinson in the minute about whether he is the right man to take them forward. They've had seasons pushing towards the top end of League One, pushing to the Championship. Not up to the same level this year. They're going to end up in the middle of the pack at best, really. It's disappointing run of thorn for Oxford, and I do understand the concerns at the moment. Whilst Burton Albion were winning 2-0 at the Pirelli, there was a victory for the away side at Stadium MK. Milton Keynes Dons 0, Exeter City 2. Not a particularly great game, first half especially, but a very fine finale to it for Exeter City. They've got 3 wins in 4 on the road now for the Grecians. Giovanni Brown got a brace here, first a penalty, then took advantage of a pass deflecting nicely into his path. He's up to 12 league goals this season now. Add to that 9 assists as well. This is proving to be the clear best season of his EFL career. He got 19 goal contributions in Exeter's promotion season last year. He's up to 21 contributions already at the end of January. He is a phenomenal player in a really good team. Exeter had a standing goalkeeper that's worth noting as well. A familiar face, truly, in Jokul Andresen on loan from Reading. Came in on an emergency loan deal because their current number 1, Jamal Blackman, is out with a hip injury. Andresen's been at Exeter City previously on loan. He's played games for Morecambe Town the last couple of seasons. Bit of a familiar face to League One and lower league fans as well. So lovely to see him in action again. I'm starting to lose faith in MK Dons though. throughout this season, I've been holding on to this idea that they are actually a lot better as a group than their position reflects. I've been looking at this team and going, come on, get your act together, realise the situation you're actually in here. And nothing's changing to the level it needs to. The transition from Liam Manning to Mark Jackson isn't having the desired effect. Yesterday was a very familiar feeling with MK Dons. Plenty of possession, but you're left at the end ruining your missed opportunities, and the opposition, meanwhile, capitalise on theirs. It was errors that proved costly on this occasion yesterday. Zach Jules fouled Sam Nombe for the Exeter penalty. New signing Paris Maghoma in midfield had possession stolen from him in the build-up to the Grecian second. There's too many occasions with MK Dons where you're looking at the positives in the performance to try and build some encouragement, and the results aren't coming with it. Dons have only won 3 league games since the beginning of November. 2 of those have been against bottom club Forest Green Rovers. The rate at which they're going is not going to be enough to keep them away from serious trouble. I will add that MK Dons right now are outside the bottom 4. What is worth noting, however, is that the 3 teams directly below them are all on the same number of points than them, all on 25. We've got nothing but goal difference separating the teams from 20th and 23rd place. And MK Dons have got the worst home record in the entire division. They've got just 9 points collected from 15 matches at Stadium MK. By the way, the pitch at Stadium MK does not look in a particularly good state either. Not the kind you want to see MK Dons playing that kind of football on. And they got a league low total of just 10 league goals scored in home games as well. If it doesn't change, it will send them down. It's as simple as that. I'm starting to lose my faith in MK Dons getting out of this. They've got work to do. Harry, shall we focus on the early kickoff in League One yesterday? Charlton Athletic 1, Bolton Wanderers 2.
Yeah, so I suppose with it being on telly, which, as you mentioned earlier, is a rarity for League One and League Two games, a lot of you might already have seen this game. But before I say anything else, Aaron Morley scored probably the best free kick you will see all season. I would be amazed if there's a better one than that. I think Ronaldinho, Juninho will be sitting there and taking notes. With the match only a few minutes old, I'm hoping I'm going to say this right. Shola Shoretire won Bolton a free kick from about 30 yards out. It was pretty central, and you'd look at it and you wouldn't really expect him to score. Morley stepped up, curled it over the wall and in off the post. For what it's worth, I'm going to say that in my opinion, there's no better style of goal to score than a free kick hitting the post and going into the other. I
completely agree with you on that. I'm glad you said it.
It's absolutely beautiful. I mean, the technique involved, especially from where he's hit it, it's not quite straight on with the goal, but you kind of want a free kick to be out on either of the wings so you can kind of curl it round. But to have one so central, it makes it even harder to get it over that wall, curl in, and just bounce perfectly off that post. And then you realise it's gone in when it bounces off the side netting on the other side of the goal. There's no feeling quite like it, is there? Dion Charles could then have made it 2-0. He drove a low shot from close range that Ashley Maynard-Brewer was able to push onto the crossbar. Bolton were made to pay for that right at the start of the second half, as in under a minute Charlton had drawn level thanks to a long-range effort from Albie Morgan. To be honest, I think James Trafford maybe should have saved it. From the highlights, it looks to me like he's tried to catch the ball rather than just pushing it out. And I do get that you don't want to be pushing it back out into your 6-yard box necessarily, but the most important thing is to get a touch on the ball. And what he's not done is extended his arms all the way out, and it's kind of squirmed underneath him and gone into the bottom corner. But it was a good finish nonetheless. And I did really like that passing in the build-up from Macaulay Bonne and Jesser and Raksaki. I think that Bond's looking like a good signing for them, and I think he could be an important part of that attack in the second half of this season. Raksaki had a great chance to put Charlton ahead, but he couldn't make a clean connection, and he snatched a shot across goal. Dion Charles then got Bolton the winner, tapping into an empty net after a lack of composure in the box, allowed Kyle Dempsey to head the ball over Sean Clare and Ashley Maynard-Brewer to Charles, who took the chance with both hands. Bolton are looking very strong right now. I was surprised that obviously they've let Dapo Afolayan go, and they moved on Amadou Bakayoko, Kieran Sadlier, a few attacking players there. But bringing in Adebayo Ajo and Cameron Jerome does give them options off the bench. I'm not sure that either of them will necessarily be starting, especially with the form that Charles has been in this season. But they look good for their playoff spot, and I'm pretty confident that they'll still be in there come the end of the season. As for Charlton, it's Dean Holden's first loss at the Valiant, so I don't think Addicks fans should be too disheartened at the minute. They still played all right. They created chances and they pushed Bolton well, especially at the start of the second half. They're not going to play many better teams than that for the rest of this season, so hopefully it's just a bump in the road rather than a sign of anything worse.
Yeah, I noticed there was a lot of praise from Charlton fans about Bolton's performance after that, and rightly so. Were you guys aware of what happened with Bolton on Tuesday?
No, can't say I was.
Their home game against Forest Green Rovers. So it was a 1-0 win over Forest Green. Dion Charles got the goal. He then got sent off later in the first half for something that Elias Kachunga did.
Oh, right. No, I have heard of this. Yeah.
Very bizarre
Referee
situation.
messed up
Kachunga
massively.
basically hit out at one of the Forest Green players, and the referee thought it was Dion Charles. I mean, they're very difficult to tell apart, really. Apparently. Very strange. But no, that red card got reversed, so it was Kachunga who was actually unavailable for this, and that was a good thing, because Dion Charles, I don't think there's any doubt really that he's the star forward at the moment, and certainly I see your point, Harry, about how Charles is certainly the starter, but with Bodvarsson out injured at the moment, and Lundulu out injured at the moment as well, it's timely to get in players of Cameron Jerome and Victor Adebayo's quality.
Yeah, and it no doubt will help out. I think especially they bring very different things to the team, don't they? Victor Adebayo is in great form. He's playing for his life at the minute, and they'll hope that he can bring that across. I mean, we've said a bit before, it's a case of, is he just having a really good season for Burton, or is this just the player that his previous clubs couldn't get out? So I will be very interested to see how he gets on. I can see it going either way. But I think Cameron Jerome, again, he'll bring some much needed experience into the squad. And he's not a bad player to be bringing off the bench with 10 minutes to go if you need a goal, is he?
No, not at all. Bolton have been. I know Ian Everett's been very keen to have good striker options available. And on Adebayo, the reason it worked so well for him at Burton and not previously is because Barnsley just didn't give him the game time. He just never got himself up to the top of the pecking order at that club. And with Burton, he had to play every game because there was no real striker alternative most of the time in terms of fitness. So he'll play a lot there. I think he'll relish the fact to play in the front two if he gets the opportunities. I think he will get the goals. I would almost have him as an outside push to the top scorer, given how strong his start of the season's been. He is up there at the moment, and if he can find his way with Bolton as well, could be a very good match for them. They've strengthened definitely, and they're a team to watch. Certainly in the back end of this season, they're going to be a playoff side as a minimum for me, as far as I'm concerned. David, Peterborough United 2, Portsmouth 1.
Yeah, and another new managerial appointment in this league, and one that I'm sure, Ed, you are very, very excited about in John Mousinho for his first managerial role. Speaking of which, how are you feeling about it, Ed?
I don't know. I understood the concerns that came Portsmouth's way when he was appointed because he's a rookie. He'd previously been in a kind of player-coach role, I think, with Oxford before becoming the manager here. And I understand that maybe there was a bit of concern from Portsmouth, a club with very high expectations in this league, taking on a rookie. But I really do want this to work. I think he's someone who has always shown, even from his time as a player, that a move into management felt likely. There's really good intentions from him. I hope he can match that with what's shown on the pitch as well. And his starts, certainly his first two games, have gone brilliantly here, but they played a quality Peterborough side and first of the season for them.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. So first two games, obviously, unbeaten in his start. And then, losing to a team like Peterborough is nothing to be ashamed of, especially in an away game as well, in quite a close run fixture. Kwame Poku's assist helping Johnson Clark-Harris to beat the offside trap here. It was a bit of a confusing one to understand on the highlights, this one. It wasn't clear whether it was an offside trap or whether it wasn't. It just seemed like he was the only one that was sort of on his toes there, to kind of get it, and really good thinking from Kwame to see out that pass, really.
I don't think that's a pass. I think he's just gone for a shot.
Do you reckon?
Thinking back on it now, I don't think there's any intent from Kwame's just gone to goal and
Clark-Harris has
basically deflected it in, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Let us know what you think on Twitter. I'm sure you will.
I'm trying to think it back off the top of my head now. You put me on the spot.
So, then Clark-Harris would make it 2 from the penalty spot following a foul on Mason Clark, by Zach Swanson, inside the 18-yard box. I had to watch this one back a couple of times, if I'm honest, because I wasn't quite sure at first. I know he clips him, but it was one of those that it was kind of, could have gone either way for me. I didn't feel like, if the referee had said it wasn't a pen, I probably wouldn't have disagreed. And even with the pen given, I probably wouldn't disagree either. It's sort of one of those that you're not quite sure about. Portsmouth would have thought that they would have got back into this one as well. They had begun their comeback. with Rico Hackett-Fairchild, but unfortunately it was ruled out for offside in the build-up in the 76th minute in. Posh's clean sheet, unfortunately, would vanish, though, after Hackett-Fairchild, again, once he came on as a substitution, was a massive influence on this game. Puts in a powerful cross, ricochets off Nathan Thompson even, giving Pompey a consolation own goal here. Not necessarily the result that Portsmouth would have wanted, and one that they certainly would have thought is a game they could have got back into. And on the run of play, you would have thought that they would have done pretty decently. But, Darren Ferguson's fourth spell in charge is going really well so far. And you can't really knock Mousinho, really. This is third game in, first defeat. Seems to be, in general, from early signs, a good appointment and a good direction. Certainly a much better direction than the one Portsmouth have been travelling in so far this season.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. We'll have to see more with that. But on Ferguson, who is 2 wins to 2, by the way, they beat Port Vale a couple of weeks back as well. When does the number of spells of the club get too excessive? Because he's on number 4.
Well, I just don't understand why they just don't give him the job permanently.
It seems to just switch between him and Grant McCann, doesn't it?
I think they should just give both of them lifetime contracts and just chuck a clause in there. It's just, if we lose a manager, one of the two of you can bid to jump in. It seems to be the general vibe.
I think Darren McAntony certainly has his preferences. But I mean, Darren Ferguson in the past, it's done the job and he has picked them up now. And they're a team that we want to see eyeing up the playoff places. They're in the kind of nick at the moment that will get them close to running. So I'll run through 2 more games to wrap up the League One section. Games happened yesterday. Cheltenham Town 0, Port Vale 0 at Wadham Road, and Lincoln City 0, Cambridge United 0 at Sincil Bank. Need to quickly mention Lincoln City's home record because it is #bizarre. They played 13 games at Sincil Bank, 2 wins, 11 draws, 0 defeats, 13 goals scored, 10 goals conceded. They picked up 17 points at home. It's the 17th best home record in League One, and they are the only team in the third tier who haven't tasted defeat at home yet this season. There's a team of crack scientists out there that can't even explain that one.
Even hearing it doesn't seem real, does it?
It's weird. It's really weird.
It's all sort of elements of a team that you'd expect to be down the bottom, parts of a team you'd expect to be up the top. And you're right.
Part of the problem for Lincoln at the minute is they've got no strikers. They've seen Tom Hopper depart as well, obviously to Colchester too, and they got Ben House back thankfully yesterday, but it's basically him at the minute up top. So
nothing really makes sense this season, does it?
No, a bit of a strange team, Lincoln. A bit strange, but I think they've got 10 games left to keep the most bizarre home unbeaten run going to the end of the season. We'll see if someone can crack that or not. But they had a 0-0 draw with Cambridge yesterday. And I will run through the League One table to wrap up this section. None of the top 3 were in league action yesterday. Plymouth Argyle still lead the way, 61 points from 28 games. Sheffield Wednesday are second on 58 from 27. Ipswich Town drew 0-0 with Championship leaders Burnley yesterday in the FA Cup. Got a replay. That should be a very fun game at Turf Moor. 54 points from 28 games. Derby County are in FA Cup action tomorrow against West Ham United. I smell an upset in that one. I think Derby could really take advantage of that at Pride Park. They're in 4th place currently on 50 points from 27. Bolton, after their lunchtime win over Charlton Athletic, are up to 50 points as well. They played 29. Barnsley didn't play yesterday. They're on 43 from 25. Peterborough, after their victory, are 7th, 41 from 26. You've got Wickham in 8th on 41 from 27. Shrewsbury, after their 4th consecutive victory, are also on 41. They played 28. And you've got Exeter in 10th on 38 from 28 played. Down the bottom, that late turnaround means Forest Green Rovers are now slightly adrift at the bottom of the table. 21 points from 29 games. Big Dunk's got a lot of work to do now because everyone above them has got more points and played fewer games. But as we've seen with League One, when a team goes adrift, they do actually tend to get back into it. So don't rule them out of this just yet. Keep an eye on that. Cambridge United are 23rd. They played 25. They played 27, and got 25 points. Burton Albion are 22nd. They've also got 25 points and played 27. Accrington Stanley are 21st. They've got 25 points and played 25. Did an FA Cup game with Leeds yesterday. And Milton Keynes Dons are in 20th on 25, having played 28. It's absolute carnage down there at the bottom of the table at the moment. And Morecambe, after their brilliant win over Bristol Rovers, are sitting nicely in 19th, 27 points from 27 games. Cheltenham in 18th, Fleetwood in 17th, both on 29 points as it stands. Let's drop down and take a look at the world's best 4th tier.
League 2.
Harry, you're going to kick this off for us with the biggest win in League Two this weekend. Talk to us about Mansfield Town 4, Doncaster Rovers 1.
Yeah, this felt like exactly what Nigel Clough's Mansfield needed after some poor form. But it will be concerning for Danny Schofield, as his side looked very off the pace after a couple of postponed matches. They've not actually played since the 7th of January, the weather taking its toll a couple of weekends in a row. And it was quite evident in the first half as they went behind in under a minute. Deep cross from Elliot Hewitt found Rhys Oates at the back post, and his knock back across goal was poked into his own net by Tom Anderson. Mansfield then doubled the lead through Alfie Kilgore, who's just signed from Bristol Rovers, I believe, hitting a half volley after Doncaster failed to clear their lines. I talked about some centre-back finishing from Casey earlier. This was some striker-level finishing from a centre-back. It was very impressive from Kilgore. Took it really well. Doncaster were able to pull one back early in the second half. Kyle Hurst kept his cool well in the box before slossing into the bottom corner. And I was a bit worried at that point that Mansfield were at risk of falling back into Mansfield ways. But just 2 minutes later, Lucas Akins did well to shrug off Tom Anderson and lob the ball over the on-rushing Jonathan Mitchell to restore the 2-goal lead.
Question though, what's Mitchell thinking here?
I've got no idea. If you're going to come out, you come out much earlier than that. But just stay on. I don't even think he was the last man at that point. I think there was a defender there as well who would have stopped Akins. So a moment of absolute madness, really. Doncaster then could have pulled one back. George Miller had the miss of the weekend. If you've not seen this already, find the highlights. New signing Cowlan Lavery beat the offside trap. And rather than trying to score a debut goal, he unselfishly squared it across to Miller, who took a really poor touch and then just sort of gently rolled the ball into Scott Flinders. Will Swan was able to add some gloss to the result late on with his 9th of the season. And this looked a lot more like the Mansfield that we probably all still expect to push for promotion or at least playoff spots. The only bad news for Clough is that he lost both Hiram Boateng and Stephen McLaughlin to injury in the first half. I don't know how bad either of them are. I did try to find out, haven't managed to find anything, but fingers crossed neither of those are too serious. As the last thing you need, especially this close to the end of the window, is 2 players out for a lengthy period of time. It's more concerning inconsistency from Doncaster, who've lost both of their games since that impressive win against Carlisle on New Year's Day. I know it's not easy coming back in after a break, but the big concern for me is the fact that they got it back to 2-1 and they just couldn't push on from there. They immediately conceded again, and that's pretty much game over.
Yeah, on Mansfield quick. I mean, losing Steve McLaughlin in particular, you don't want to do that because he is so integral to them in that left wing back role. They've got no one else in their team really that can do that role to the same level he can. On Doncaster though, Harry, I completely echo your thoughts. I just feel incredibly uninspired by them. When Schofield came in, I wanted to feel quite optimistic about it. The right intention was there. He wanted to play a possession-based format in this 3-4-3. There's just so little impressive about them, and people have been really uninspired by a lot of their transfer business as well recently. A lot of loan deals rather than permanent signings. They did get in Keenan Lavery, who's been pretty influential to Scunthorpe United down the bottom of the National League as well. We'll see if they can handle the step up or not. But they feel like the team that is going to probably end up at the bottom of this big playoff pack we've got in League 2 at the moment. They really uninspire me right now. Yeah,
they're looking comfortably mid-table, aren't they? I'd be interested to hear what you think about them bringing in Charlie Lakin as well.
Yeah, Lakin, it all depends, because the problem with the 3-4-3 for me is you've only got 2 central midfield positions, and that to me is where Lakin operates best. He's been utilised in quite a few wide positions with Burton with ill effect, whether that's at left back or as a winger or as a wing back role, and it's not the right fit for him. I think for me he's a midfielder, and if he can't break into that pair of Ben Close and Harrison Biggins, I don't give him much hope really of having a successful loan spell there.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think Close came off injured yesterday. Again, I don't know how bad it was, but maybe that'll give him the opportunity he needs.
Perhaps so. I'm just not really encouraged by the amount of loan deals. But Ben Nelson coming in from Leicester, been in Rochdale for the last season, that's okay. Don't mind the Brown signing from Blackburn, who was at Stockport the first start of the season. You're just still a bit uninspired by the direction Doncaster seems to be going. There doesn't seem to be a lot of intent to really push to climb back into League One at the first attempt. Really, it's a pretty underwhelming season until stop. So Doncaster Rovers at the moment, and that's a shame. David, shall we talk about Gills? Swindon Town 3, Gillingham 3.
I mean, just give me a moment, Ed, because firstly, we've scored 3 goals. I just need a minute. Okay, we're good. Right. So this game, honestly, had just about everything from start to finish. Early goals. in the sense that 13 minutes in, it was 3-1 to Gillingham. And I can't believe those words have just come out of my mouth. There was a red card in this one, some very controversial penalty decisions, and a few decisions that probably should have been penalties that weren't given, and the penalties that were given, bizarrely given, in my opinion. And I'm going to try and somehow do this absolute chaos justice. So Johnny Williams opened proceedings just 58 seconds in, took a touch, nicely driven volley into the bottom of Morris's net for his 8th goal of the season, which so far in his career is his personal best tally to date. But despite conceding so early, Gillingham, uncharacteristically, would equalise just 2 minutes later in the 3rd minute. Timothy Dieng finding himself in the box uncontested for his first goal for the club since joining from Exeter City. Controversial penalty decision after this, converted by Woolwright to double the Gills lead. Very clear to me, and I'm sure to many
It's nothing
people,
controversial, it's wrong.
Well, it's controversial in the sense that it was given, right?
It's wrong. It's the wrong decision. Simple as that.
In fairness to Paul Howard, though, without the benefit of a replay that we all have, Blake Tracy's arm is up in the air, so I can kind of see why it was given, but
I didn't see any. I looked at the reaction of Gillingham players, David, and they looked kind of like, oh, penalty. Okay, we'll have that.
Yeah, no, but you're never going to disagree with that kind of decision, are you? But no, I'd agree. I don't think it was a penalty whatsoever. I mean, 13 minutes in, Tom Nichols with a header, surprisingly, converted an Alex McDonald cross to give Gillingham a 3-goal lead.
It's just one knife into Crawley after another, isn't it?
Oh, it's all right. Don't worry about it. He's just too small-head. He can't header a ball. Yeah, Gills hadn't scored 3 in a game, 3 goals in one game since March 2021 before this one. And Tom Nichols, little bit of pub quiz knowledge here, has also become the first player to score in his first 3 games for the club since Leo Fortune West did in August of 1995. So over 30 years ago. Big thanks to Hayden Parry for that little nugget on Twitter. I quite enjoyed reading that one. But going into half time, you for sure could have made the mistake in thinking, as I did myself, that the game was probably over. But somehow I don't think the Robins got that message. Another really controversial penalty decision. To me, I don't think you can give a penalty for a ball that's been blasted a metre away that hits somebody's hand.
If you can give it to one that hits one in the face, then yes, you can.
Well, this is my point, but I feel like, I've written in my notes that if you give the first, it's justified to also give the second, but neither one really should have been a decision that went to the spot for me. Charlie Austin stepping up, and of course he was going to convert it to bring the Robins back into the game. Austin would then double his tally for the game from a Hepburn-Murphy cross to continue to put pressure on the away side. At this point, it was just all-out attack for Swindon. Gills trying really hard to kind of get anything from this game at that point, and they probably look like they might have gone on to take all 3 points. However, Saido Khan, unfortunately for Swindon, was given his marching orders for a second yellow after bringing down George Lapsley to cut out a Gillingham counter-attack. From a Gillingham perspective, very disappointing to have only got a point from this game. But looking at the bigger picture, and looking at how this season has gone so far, 7 goals in 3 games and 6 points is certainly nothing to sniff at. Swindon, I'm sure they'll probably, before kickoff, they probably would have been sure favourites for those 3 points. But I don't think there'll be many Swindon fans that will complain at a point in this game, given how everything turned out, that they'll continue to push up towards the playoff places. And I think for Gills, that's a big draw against a team that will probably be up there by the end of the season.
They're entertaining game at the county ground, certainly. And I think if you aren't rating the idea of Swindon as a playoff side, I think you have to with Charlie Austin in there, because he's got 3 goals in 2 appearances. Currently, he's averaging a goal every 55 minutes. Now, admittedly, there's only been 2 games, but I don't think we had any doubt really that Charlie Austin would provide such superior quality, as he was playing at a higher level not too long ago at all, and he's had a great start to life at Swindon Town. Your boys, David, I'd imagine they're not fully done with the business yet. I like the Conor Masterson signing coming in from Queen's Park Rangers as well, but it's incredible how different the whole place feels in the space of 2-3 weeks?
Completely, yeah. I mean, from kind of, I would argue from sort of the 23rd of December. Not sure why that date pops into my mind. But yeah, I think given the signings we've made, some of which I've excuse me, I found to be quite surprising. I mean, Timothy Dieng, I'm very surprised we managed to get him in from League One. Just seemed to have gone onto a raid of Crawley and Mansfield. So apologies to both of those fan bases. I'm sure you're definitely not my biggest fan right now. But I think the signings that we've made have been good signings, and they've been positive signings. From what Neil Harris has said as well before we got Connor Masterson in, which again is a really good signing for me, like fantastic input into the season last year, despite going down. I think he was a real key player last year. It looks like we're potentially looking for another striker, maybe another winger. We've got that centre back in, but possibly another left back with who was it who went back? It was Ryan Law. There we go. Ryan Law went back to Plymouth, so needs some competition in there for David Tutonda. But yeah, phenomenal change. I think you just have to look at the last 3 games in comparison to the rest of the season. We've basically doubled our goal scoring tally in 3 games, and it's pretty much just been the people that have come in. It probably helps that Alex McDonald has had a big upturn in form as well. I don't think many will necessarily notice that, but he's been involved in a lot of assists with Tom Nichols recently, obviously assisting with the free kick as well. Tom Nichols has been an absolute revelation. Ollie Hawkins, I mean, we all know what he brings to the table, has been an absolute monster up top as well, just causing nonsense, and it really helps us to work in the way we have been. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel as worried as I was a matter of weeks ago, but certainly feeling much more positive than I would have been if those signings hadn't come in. Couple of days left of the window, and I wouldn't be mad if we didn't get anyone in, but I think at priority, a left back is definitely needed.
I'm glad you're stuck with Neil Harris as well, because I know there are a couple of questions coming his way, but there was only so much you could do with that original group, and he's reaping the benefits of what he currently has with his new look team. And talking of new look sides, Hartlepool United 1, Colchester United 2. 4 away wins in a row for Colchester United. It's the joint best active run in the whole 92, equal with Premier League leaders Arsenal, who have also won 4 consecutive away games. They've definitely got some people to thank for this one up in County Durham, though. The opening goal 5 minutes in, I'd really like to see another angle of it, because I'm not sure whether or not there is a handball from Samson Tavide as that delivery drops to him. Nothing's given, though, and the ball falls to Theo Kelleher to score from close range. He's had a very good week, by the way. On Tuesday against Salford City, he was brought on in the first half after an unfortunate injury to Tom Dallison, ended up getting the equaliser in a 1-1 draw with a play offside. He starts this game in the centre of the back 3 and gets his second goal in as many games within 5 minutes of kick-off. There is a push from Hartlepool to get level in this game, particularly in the second half. Some notable saves from Kieran O'Hara throughout this match and the Colchester United goal. The end of this game, though, sees Jamie Sterry take centre stage. Sterry's one of my favourite League Two players. He's a really good attacking wing-back to have at this level. A crucial player for Hartlepool United. He's suffered with injury issues across the entire campaign, though. He's only played in about half of Hartlepool's total games. Keith Cole still having to manage his fitness and game time even now. Sterry ends up getting an equaliser in this game for Hartlepool, his first goal of the season, and it's with around 10 minutes or so left to play. 5 minutes later, however, back at the other end of the pitch, he's in a scuffle with Alex Newby to try and clear a parried shot, and he ends up knocking the ball into his own net. There's even a last-ditch attempt to clear the ball off the line that proves unsuccessful, and it gives Colchester United the win from a long trip up to County Durham. When it comes to this League Two relegation battle, I think it's safe to say our general feeling is that the business done by Colchester United and Gillingham, which is the nominal business, by the way, will see them move well clear of the bottom 2 and out of any trouble. Colchester United have already got well clear with this run anyway. So that leaves the battle for the drop probably between Rochdale, Hartlepool United, Harrogate Town, Crawley Town, and possibly Newport County, depending on how you feel about them. They're a struggling team as well. Hartlepool got a really crucial 2-0 win over Rochdale last weekend. But aside from a 3-3 draw with Harrogate, the rest of 2023 has begun with defeats. I feel like this was their opportunity to get a run of positive results together against lower ranked opposition. And it's not happened. You look at Hartlepool's fixtures left for the rest of the season, the vast majority are against teams that are in this title, promotion, playoff race, top half sides. It's going to be an uncomfortable end to the season for Pools. They've got to pick up on their away record. Only Crawley Town have collected fewer points on the road than them this season. David, Harry, if I was to put you on the spot right now and say which of the teams down the bottom do you think could potentially end up suffering relegation this season, who would you go with?
I would probably have to put my money on. I think it's Hartlepool and Rochdale, if I'm honest. I just think the situation at Rochdale is dire. And Hartlepool, unless they get something in, I just can't see it. I mean, the teams around them are improving on form. I'm just not seeing anyone else that's in a position to otherwise drop down into those positions, unless they become just completely imploding. But for me, yeah, it's Hartlepool and Rochdale.
Yeah, they're an understandable pick. Harry, yourself?
Yeah, I think I'd have to say the same too, unfortunately. For me, at the start of January, it was between those two and Colchester. And like you just mentioned, Colchester have had a good window. They're now picking up these good results and they've pulled themselves away from it. I still think Crawley will be all right. I know they're a bit of a basket case, but the squad's just on another level compared to Hartlepool and Rochdale. And the thing is, they've both had such underwhelming windows. For Hartlepool, I think maybe Matty Dolan aside, I don't see anybody who particularly excites me that they've brought in. Again, at Rochdale, there's just not been any strengthening. And with those other teams pulling away now, you can't see them getting the points to keep up. And I think that the clubs above them, like Harrogate, have probably got enough points at the minute as a buffer that they won't get dragged into it, just because I can't see Hartlepool and Rochdale picking up the points, unfortunately. So, yeah, it would be those two as well.
Mm-hmm. Convenient mention of National League, by the way. I have a live score update to you boys.
It's 2-1.
Tom O'Connor's scored for Wrexham. It's Wrexham 2, Sheffield United 1.
Former Gills man. That's what
former Burton man as well. I love seeing that as well. Happy days. It's exploding over there at the race course. They've got about half an hour to go, so could be in line to beat second in the championship here. Keep an eye on that for sure. We will as this episode progresses. Harry, should we move on? Let's talk Crawley Town 3, Salford City 2.
Yeah, so speaking of thinking that Crawley will probably be all right, this wasn't really a bad first match as Crawley boss for Scott Lindsey. He'd be relieved that his side managed to hold on after almost scuppering a 3-0 lead. But it's an impressive win against a playoff chasing side. Lindsey gave a debut to 19-year-old Rafiq Khalil, and he also brought Corey Aday in goal for his first appearance since October after Ellery Balcom was recalled and sent to Bristol Rovers. After that game at Morecambe, he might be wishing he was still in Crawley, though, to be fair. They went 2-0 up in the first half through two almost identical goals, with Jack Powell whipping in a corner from the left, first for Dom Telford to get his fourth in three matches. Whoever was making the decision to not start Dom Telford for the first half of the season, I'd like a word with you, please. And then he did the exact same thing for Dion Conroy, who was able to head in at the near post. In the second half, Teddy Jenks did well with the ball on the edge of the box before curling a shot into the bottom corner, and Crawley seemed to have run away with it. They could even have had a fourth as Tom Fellows ran, and he kept running, only for a good save from Alex Cairns to stop him from getting a deserved finish. Brian Watson pulled one back for Salford with about 10-15 minutes to go, as Luke Bolton's shot from the right was parried out by Adai and into his feet. Deep into injury time, Matty Lund then knocked it in from close range, but it proved too little too late, and Salford's up and down form continues. The drop points mean they're 6 points off Carlisle, who are in fourth, and so, for now at least, they head up the best of the rest, that is that League Two playoff race. Crawley, on the other hand, are now 4 points clear of the relegation zone, and in Scott Lindsey, they've got a manager who has at least managed an EFL side before, even if he didn't leave Swindon on the best of terms. I picked them as my wild card a couple of months ago. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I'd like to think I didn't say that at the time because there's way too much to do there. But I'm still scratching my head at how this squad is down where they are. There's good players in there. It's not the biggest of squads, and they have struggled to get players in this window. But they're a much better side than the likes of Hartlepool and Rochdale. And I do think they'll be all right. And hopefully, at the very least, they can bring about some stability across the rest of this season and come into next year a bit stronger and still as an EFL side.
Yeah, good start to Scott Lindsey, certainly. Love the goal from Teddy Jenks, by the way, Crawley's third. Really nice turn and finish there. And should we talk about the little video that went around, Harry, around Dom Telford?
We will, yeah. So it was being filmed in the Salford end. They were singing to Dom Telford, who had his hair tied up, "You're just a shit Andy Carroll." He headed it in from the resulting corner, went over to the Salford fans and said, "I'm just a shit Andy Carroll." So there you go.
Love it. He has picked up form, definitely. You know, he had such an exceptional season with Newport last year. I think that's his 6th goal of the season for Crawley. And as the marquee signing, you always want him to be such an influential player. When they get Ashley Nadsam back fully fit and firing as well. Quick score update, lads. Sheffield United have equalised. It is 2-2 at the racecourse.
Close run thing, this. Isn't it?
Well, these two with the quality, there was always going to be goals with the quality those two have. So I would have expected a high scoring affair. And they've got about 25 minutes left to play there. We'll move to the top of the table. Barrow 0, Northampton Town 2. Just what the Cobblers needed. Been on a nasty run of fixtures against teams hunting them down. They've still got Walsall to come at Sixfields next Saturday. Their return of results has not been one that you would expect a promotion-winning side to get. Injuries have played a part in that, admittedly. Up at Barrow, however, against a team that has one of the league's strongest home records, they battled through a fairly low-quality first half and scored twice after half-time. First through Ben Fox, and then the returning Sean McWilliams, with Sam Hoskins, their top scorer, playing a part in both of their goals. I haven't got to mention this previously because we weren't around last week, but Northampton Town have a new goalkeeper. With Lee Burge out, Tom King was brought in 2 weeks ago after falling down the pecking order at Salford City, with Alex Cairns coming in there. Another signing for Northampton this January, midfielder William Hondermark from Barnsley. First caught eye of this guy whilst on loan at Harrogate Town a couple of seasons back. I thought very highly of him. His game time at Barnsley has been pretty limited, and he believes personally that this move to Northampton is the right move to help him fulfil his potential at 22 years old. He's a player for me in the mould of what you see from Ben Fox and Sean McWilliams, who are already successful midfielders at Northampton. Primarily a midfield player, can operate in a right-back role as well. I'm excited to see a lot more of him than we have got to up to now. I hope that can be a good part of Northampton's promotion push. And a significant win for the Cobblers, David, especially because we have been well aware for a while now of who the closest chasers to them are. And they won once again yesterday. Rochdale 0, Carlisle United 1.
Yeah, Ed. So, this was a game of League Two's top scorers versus the team with the worst home record in the division. And there's no prizes for guessing which is which here. Two teams both needing the points, with Rochdale sitting on the bottom of the Football League and Carlisle looking to continue their push for those automatic places. The only real difference maker here was John Kamani Gordon on loan from Crystal Palace. Massive difference maker, formulating the goal with a great counter-attack. Really, to make matters worse from a Rochdale perspective, they were in the middle of an attacking phase where they were kind of getting ready to take a shot on goal, ball taken away and cleared out. Gets into the possession of Christian Dennis, who plays a perfect ball, perfectly weighted ball into Gordon. Two defenders chasing him down, but just can't get there in time. Slots it nicely underneath the keeper.
He puts the burners on, doesn't he?
He really does. 19-year-old, a lot of pace. Looks like he's going to be pretty promising. And, certainly at this level anyway. The unfortunate thing, again, this just wasn't Rochdale's day. Really unfortunate towards the end. They thought they pulled one back late on for a headed effort from Ian Henderson, but the linesman had ruled it out for offside. Just another big blow to Dale's survival hopes. Probably the expected result in this game, but you definitely can't knock Rochdale's fight. They're definitely trying to keep themselves up. This one just wasn't to be, for a couple of probably mistakes in the attacking third, to allow that Carlisle goal in the first place, and then finding themselves in a difficult situation where Henderson is just offside. Finest of margins, but that's all it is at League Two, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got a problem where I'm running out of things to say about Carlisle. They're so exceptional at the minute. But yeah, John Gordon, Kiami Gordon's the good one to mention here. He's the competition really to Amari Patrick now, that I think we would have naturally expected if he'd been fit, he would have been the partner to Christian Dennis as that more pace option behind. And Gordon clearly has had an excellent impact so far in the limited minutes he's had as well. Rochdale, just loads of concern about them still, propping up the table. They finished with 9 men last weekend in their defeat to Hartlepool United. It's just not going great for them at all at the minute. They're low on defensive numbers. I know they added Owen Dodgson, who I believe is on loan from Burnley, as a left back option as well. Damani Mellor's coming from Wycombe Wanderers to be a striker as well. That they need bodies in, and I'm theory to Jim Bentley's chances of keeping them up at the moment, because I think we're unanimous in our agreement that they could be one of the two who end up going down this season. No surprise to see them lose to Carlisle United, but they've got to improve a lot to do for them. Harry, Tranmere Rovers 1, Leyton Orient 0.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, this is my first time covering a Tranmere win since I started these podcasts in October. So apologies to any Orient fans listening if my coverage is slightly more biased than usual. Both of these sides have built around strong defence as opposed to attacking prowess this season, and so it was always going to be tight. I think in the build-up to the game, I assumed that I was walking to a 0-0. But I had expected more than one shot on target in the match, and that ended up being a pot shot from Kieran Morris in the first half, and it wasn't even the goal that eventually decided the tie. Neither side looked particularly convincing in the first half. For the most part, it was a tale of the two signings that had been announced on Friday, as Harvey Saunders looked very dangerous up front for Tranmere alongside Kane Hemmings. He was chasing down every ball and getting himself into the box, whereas Leyton Orient's new winger Kieran Sadlier looked anonymous throughout the game. We all know that he's a talented player, but he just couldn't get himself involved. The ball wasn't really coming out to him, and when it was, he wasn't doing much with it. The second half opened up a bit, but both teams struggled to turn ball possession into chances until, with under 10 minutes to go, some favourable use of the advantage rule saw Josh Dacres-Cogley break into the box, and he smashed a ball across goal which went in off the chest of Omar Beckles for an own goal. As a Tranmere fan, there was a lot to enjoy about that goal, from the link-up play between new winger Logan Chalmers and Kieran Morris, to the charging run from Dacres-Cogley, who I will be amazed if he's still in a Tranmere shirt this time next year. But for me, the absolute best bit was that if Beckles hadn't got a touch, the player waiting at the back post to poke it in was none other than centre-back Jordan Turnbull, who'd steamed all the way from centre-back. I think a lot of Tranmere fans would agree that it's been between him and our full-backs for the player of the season. He's been such a good signing, and the pairing of him and Tom Davies just gives you so much defensive reassurance in a game. Harry Smith and Kane Hemmings both hit the crossbar late on, with Hemmings probably the easier of the two chances to score. But it was a good result that will hopefully get Tranmere back on track. With Stevenage not playing in the league, Orient are still top just about, but they've now got only one win in 7. And to put it bluntly, they need a new striker.
What moron declared Leyton Orient already promoted back on the 17th of December? Looking around,
I think we've been guilty of it, haven't we, to be fair?
No, bad turn of form. Since that win over Sutton, I think it's a single victory over Doncaster Rovers, and I think it's 6 points collected from the following games as a result. Not good. They had a heavy defeat to the team directly below them in Stevenage last weekend as well. They're out of shape, Orient, and yeah, they've been quite reliant on the performances of Paul Smith and Theo Archibald in their wide positions, and it's kind of made up for the lack of really clinical goals from their strikers. So something to add to them for sure. Can we mention about Harvey Saunders making his debut for Tranmere, Harry?
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. I think it'll. We were saying before we started recording, he's one of those players that's so good, and Bristol Rovers fans all agreed they're not getting rid of him because he's not good enough for League One. He just couldn't get into that team because you've got the likes of Aaron Collins in there. So hopefully it'll be good for his career to get some regular game time. I think it's going to be absolutely vital for Tranmere to have a pacey attacker up front. I've been saying what we've missed is having somebody next to Kane Hemmings who can do the dirty work eventually, and that's what he did. He was closing down every single ball. He's so quick, and he's got an eye for goal. I think he's going to be an important part of this team, and I do think that he's going to be successful, which is maybe a risky thing to say when he hasn't scored yet.
Yeah, I hope so, and I hope you can keep what you have, because you want to keep that 11 going, but a player like Cogley, I think that the link to Aberdeen still exists or not now, but you hope you can keep him in these final couple of days of the window. Dave, we've got a couple of 1-0s to quickly run through. I'll let you take yours first. ASC Wimbledon 1, Stockport County 0.
Yeah, not much to say about this one really, Ed. Although big 3 points here for Wimbledon, as this win's helped them leapfrog Stockport in the table. Far from ideal start really from Wimbledon in this one, with Nick Zanev finding himself really in no man's land and conceding a penalty for a collision with Kyle Noyle. I'm not entirely sure what he was thinking here. He's just sort of sprinted into him and just like stopped himself at the last minute, as if that makes a difference. I'm not really sure. But he did go on to redeem himself, however, knocking Hippolyte's spot kick onto the post to save his blushes, and they managed to clear that. The rest of the first half, barring that, were pretty uneventful, to be fair. And it wasn't until after the break that the host would make that breakthrough. Billier's cross was pinpoint accurate, found Harry Powell, who struck an absolute bullet header into the top corner. The goal secured Wimbledon's first win of 2023, and they're kind of in a position where I mean, I don't see where else they can go other than up here, really. It's not been the best of starts to the year. And if they kind of want to progress and keep themselves going, I think they're probably looking at a mid-table finish this year. But I think, the only way to go now is up, really, for this Wimbledon side.
Yeah, so I think Hushan Bill is a good player to mention. The guy who got the assist, been playing at right back. Another one of these Wimbledon youth products coming through. Jack Curry's been equally impressive when he's played at left back as well. Mentioned throughout Marnie Little, who's coming from Forest Green Rovers, played in midfield, really caught the eye at the base alongside Alex Woodyard as well. One more game we'll run through. Harrogate Town 0, Sutton United 1. A happy end to this pod because I'm so pleased to be able to say this again. David Ajiboye scored a goal for Sutton United. The 24-year-old returned on loan from Peterborough United at the beginning of the window. This was his first start since he returned, and he got the only goal of the game within 10 minutes of kick-off. Very much a goal that you associate David Ajiboye with as well. A turn of pace and direction to get into space, and a lovely low finish into the bottom corner. He could have had a second later into the first half, but saw his shot go off the crossbar. I need to mention a spectacular save at the end of this game from Jack Rose. This shot from, I believe it was Danny Grant for Harrogate, just as added time had been announced. It takes a big deflection off Alistair Smith, one of Sutton's midfielders, and he reacts, Jack Rose, with his trailing hand to tip this shot over the bar. It's an amazing save. I see a lot of these really good clips of goalkeepers in training, and their coach puts a load of objects, might be bottles, might be boxes, whatever, that kind of thing. They put them on the ground in front of their goal, and then the coach will kick the ball at these objects with the aim of causing this massive deflection that the goalkeeper has to react to in net. That save from Jack Rose yesterday is an example of why that kind of training can be good. To be able to have your body already committing to diving in one direction, and then be able to react and reach the ball after a sudden change of direction, it's really impressive. Sixth meeting in a row between Sutton United and Harrogate Town that has ended in victory for the London side. We will finish by running through the League 2 table. Leyton Orient still lead the way, 57 points from 28 games. Stevenage, though, beaten 3-1 at Stoke City today in the FA Cup. Their run is over, but nothing to be ashamed about there. They're 55 points from 26. They do look the prime candidates to overtake Leyton Orient and lead the league at the moment, with Orient's shape at the moment. Northampton Town, crucial win, 49 points from 27 games. Carlisle hot on their heels, though. They're on 48 points from 27 games. Salford City are 5th, 42 points from 27. Swindon Town are 6th on 42 from 27. Mansfield Town wrap up the players' places, also on 42 from 27. Bradford City are 8th on 41 from 26. You've got Barrow in 9th on 40 from 27. AFC Wimbledon 10th, 39 from 27. Sutton United 11th, 39 from 28. Stockport County 12th, 38 from 26. Tranmere, after their winner, on 38 from 27 in 13th. Walsall, who played Leicester yesterday in the FA Cup, they're 14th on 37 from 24. Doncaster Rovers are 15th on 37 from 26. That playoff race is still absolutely bonkers. Down the bottom, Rochdale, after another defeat, this time at the hands of Carlisle, 20 points from 28 games. Gillingham still in the bottom fourth now, but undoubtedly so much better as a team and as a club feeling as a whole. They're on 21 points from 26 games. Hartlepool United are just outside the bottom two with 22 points from 28. It feels only a matter of time before Gillingham go past them, really. Harrogate Town, 24 points from 26, could be down as well. Crawley Town, really encouraging win for Scott Lindsey in his first game, 25 points from 25 games. Newport County, maybe one that could get dragged into as well. They're 19th on 26 from 26 games. We're going to wrap up the episode there. David, Harry, thank you very much for your contribution today. Great to have you on board.
Cheers, pal. Good to be back.
Thank you. Yeah, nice to have ended the long break.
For sure. Join us again next week for more from the world's best third and fourth tiers. We'll see you then. Goodbye.